Hi, I'm Anneliese. I'm a senior at the UAHuntsville Communication Arts Department, and I was diagnosed with a degenerative retinal condition when I was about a year and a half old, and then we changed the diagnosis 3 or 4 times since then, and now I have a stable condition at legally blind, so you won't see me driving, hopefully. You should be scared if you do. This is my seeing eye dog, Prada. She's about 6 years old, and we've been working together for about 3 years. Since less than 1% of the legally blind population use guide dogs, I usually like to introduce a couple of the social rules associated with meeting someone who has a seeing eye dog. Yes, they're adorable, they're cute, and they love people, but you really shouldn't interact with them without the handler's permission. Under no circumstances should you ever pet or interact with a guide dog while they're wearing their harness. This is the harness. If you see it on the back of a guide dog, you should ignore them, pretend they don't even exist, don't make eye contact, don't pet them, don't play with them, don't talk to them. Some harnesses look a little bit different. It depends on which school that you graduate from. Now, when Prada's not wearing her harness, she's very social, she loves people. She's hiding from the camera, which is unusual for her. And you're more than welcome to pet her and play with her, talk to her. Under no circumstances whatsoever should you feed a guide dog anything except the handler gives you, and that had better be kibble or a dog treat. That food distraction is the fastest way to get a guide dog disqualified from their job. That's $70,000 worth of training and breeding that goes out the window. Not to mention, the handler has to spend another 3 to 4 weeks training to get a new dog. Because seeing eye dogs, dog guides, guide dogs are all permitted in grocery stores, restaurants, and other areas that serve food, we have to know that their behavior around food is going to be absolutely perfect. Otherwise, we get a bad reputation and the restrictions applied to where we can and cannot go will increase. Right now, we're very privileged to move virtually unrestricted through the United States. This could change based on the dog guide's continued good behavior. Please don't tempt our dogs into getting food distractions. A lot of people are surprised when I initially tell them that I'm legally blind. The first question is usually, "But you're looking right at me. Are you really that blind?" Yes, I am. You really don't want to see me driving, I promise. It's not a good thing. But the reason that I can follow where people are talking, so I can look directly at their eyes, is because I've spent a lot of time reading science fiction and fantasy, and ever since Spock, everyone's been obsessed with eyebrows and facial expressions. They describe them to the most minute detail, talking about even that small muscle along the jawline that twitches. And because I've been reading a lot of that, I know what your facial expression should look like. My mother also spent a long time teaching me how to make eye contact, how to follow people's voices, because she's a communicator, she's a people person, she really wants to make people comfortable, and she knew that people wouldn't be really comfortable around me until I learned how to imitate the way that sighted people interact with each other non-verbally. So I spent a lot of time not really cognitively learning this, but developing these instinctive nonverbal communication styles through other sources, whereas most people, when they're infants, they learn the facial expressions from their parents. I didn't have that opportunity, so I picked it up a little bit later in life. Because of that, I'm a little more selective about where I can and cannot use my facial expressions. I actually can turn almost all of my nonverbals off, and it really freaks some people out. So, kind of fun every once in a while to confuse someone like that. If you encounter another legally blind person, or particularly someone who is totally blind, they have not probably had these advantages in learning the nonverbal communication. So it can be a little bit intimidating to talk to them because they might not make direct eye contact. They won't necessarily talk with their hands or even know what to do with their arms, so they tend to cross them just because it's comfortable. I mean, it rests well. They will have that kind of closed-off body language. That doesn't mean that they don't want to talk to you. We're actually very friendly, just like everyone else. Well, some of us are. So just there's a variety. Just we're the same spectrum of personalities. We just communicate that very differently, and that can be intimidating to sighted people. So if you're communicating with a legally blind person, you can go ahead and talk with your hands. We won't find it offensive. Now, we won't know what you're doing, but that's okay. If it makes you more comfortable, go right ahead. You may notice that I've been talking with my hands throughout pretty much this entire video. I learned that, again, from science fiction, again, from my mother showing me different ways that people naturally communicate. So we emphasize things like size or expansive time or location with our hands, just like anyone else does, if we've had this opportunity to learn to imitate. But some of us don't. You can go ahead and do that. Just don't point at something and say it's over there. We have no idea where over there is with a nonverbal gesture. We like very concise directions, left, right, go forward, then to your left, etc. Shrugging and nodding your head. That was the other one. I was sitting at dinner the other night with a couple of friends down at the Mellow Mushroom. We were sitting outside, and I asked someone a question, a yes or no question, and he, sitting a couple of chairs down from me, nodded his head. And I asked him, I said, "Are you nodding your head and waiting for me to respond with the next question?" And he said, "Yes." "Wait, if you're blind, how did you know that?" And I said, "Well, there was this awkward pause where I assumed that you had to be doing some nonverbal thing because you, like me, forgot I was blind for a moment." We really can't. We can pick up on those awkward pauses sometimes, but nodding your head, shrugging, yes or no, we don't get that. We do it, but we don't get it when you do it. So if we look at you confused, or if there's this awkward silence where you're waiting for us to continue, that's probably what's going through our heads. We're trying to figure out which nonverbal gesture you're making that we're missing. One of my particular areas of interest since I started studying at UAH in the Communications Department was paralanguage. Paralanguage is everything that takes the words that you speak and makes it interesting. It's your pitch, your speed, your volume, the little pauses, your breath control, verbal pauses such as like, uh-huh. All of these things make up what we call paralanguage, and it's what gives our words color and emotion and intensity. I got interested in this because as a legally blind person, I can't see facial expressions, but I can still tell what shapes people's faces are making based on the shape of their oral cavity, and that's strongly influenced by their paralanguage, how fast you talk, how slow you talk, how high your voice is, how deep it resonates, any sort of breath control that you do or do not use. That paralanguage communicates to me the shape of your face, and therefore I can pick up nonverbal communication that otherwise I wouldn't ever be able to see. So in social situations, we like security. We want to know that we're not going to offend anyone, we're not going to look like a jerk, and no one's going to be a jerk to us. So that's why people of similar nonverbal communication tend to group together, and that nonverbal being clothes, or their body language, their eye contact, etc. So frequently I've discovered that people can sometimes be intimidated to talk to people who are physically disabled because we look and act non-verbally different. I discovered this particularly my freshman year of college when I didn't have Prada and I walked with a white cane. People didn't talk to me, they didn't come up to me. I had to reach out to them because the white cane says, "I am very disabled. You can see that I have a disability and I am different than you are." And frequently, because we don't want to appear insensitive or like a jerk, we're not going to talk to these people because we just don't know how to interact with them. Here's a couple of comfort tips for you. If you really want to talk to the person with the cane or the guide dog, or if you feel awkward about it, we won't be offended if you say, "I see," or "Did you see that?" or "Did you see the movie the other day?" Yes, we watch movies. We actually sit and stare at the screen. We don't know why. I mean, we can't see it, but we do sit there and stare at the screen, just like anyone else. I look at my phone when I text. I can't read it, but I'm still looking. We're not offended, but if you ask us these sorts of things, we would much rather have you ask us questions about our lifestyle, about how things are different, than stand there and know because of the tenseness of your breathing or the pitch of your conversation with someone else that you're scared to talk to us. Guarded conversation can actually be more offensive than natural slip-ups because we feel like you don't think we can handle hearing the fact that we're blind. We see, hear, feel it every single day. We're used to it. It's okay. It's kind of like being blonde or brunette. It's just a lifestyle for us. We don't see that it's terribly different or worth protecting ourselves from because it's normal. So it's okay to, particularly around me, some are not quite as comfortable as I am in this way, but around me, I won't be comfortable around you until I can convince you to make a blind joke. I probably heard them already, but I want you to make it for your sake, because until you do, you'll never be comfortable around me, and I can sense that discomfort. You're afraid of me. You don't think that I can handle it. I can, and I want to.